Hi, folks. Welcome to the Sunday edition, this week's Sunday edition of the IR Right Radio podcast stroke videocast. We've just had a chat about what we want to chat about, and there is so much that we're kind of overwhelmed. But I think what we're going to open up with today is the forgotten negotiations. There's two lots of negotiations going on at the moment that aren't getting much press. One of them is the Brexit negotiations, but there is also a few interesting things have come out of the trade deal with America negotiations that might be worth a mention. But on the Brexit stuff, Jimmy, do you want to go first on this?
Not particularly, mate. I think the whole it's been a clusterfuck for day one, and it's panning out exactly how we expect. There ain't going to be no deal, and we're out. There's not a chance that they're going to get a deal, and there's not a chance that they're going to ask for an extension. So it's a no-deal Brexit at the end of this year, and they're praying that coronavirus doesn't kick off again round about start of winter, November time.
That's true.
Well, they'll use Corona as a cover for the damage that Brexit does.
Well, and on top of that, they wheeled out that slimy man, Dr. Liam Fox, who's a mouthpiece for everything that we hate about America. And they wheeled him onto Sky this morning to say that it's China bad, America good. Well, I'm sorry, those scales have been wobbling a bit lately. And so I mean, it's a case of, well, if all we've quite clearly, if they're going to have a no deal, walk away from the EU, what's left for Britain? They've got to do a deal with China or America to start with. Otherwise, we're screwed.
Well, the American deal will get done because it's going to be done in secret. You're not going to get to see it. They've already, I think, agreed to keep it under wraps for 5 years. They've just, which ties in with the Scottish situation, the 6 Scottish Tory MPs have just voted against maintaining the standards in food production that we have at the moment, which is, of course, in parallel with Europe. And the only reason for that is to get an American deal.
It's to allow lower standard foods into the UK. Now that horrifies British farmers.
Well, immediately, I mean, right off the bat, without talking about chlorinated chicken, you've got hormone-enhanced beef.
You've got GM foods.
You've got GM crops.
And you've got all these different standards for. Don't forget, in this country, they've got high humane standards as well. So when
welfare standards,
and they've paid a lot of money, the farmers in this country, to set themselves up.
So at the first hurdle, the first opportunity to guarantee those standards being maintained, the Tories, what was it, 129? They won the vote by?
They won by a country mile.
So effectively, they're not even pretending they didn't lie to us now.
No, they've sold their voters down the river, but they didn't care. They've got another 4 years in government. They won the election last December. They don't give a damn about their electorate until about 18 months from the next election.
Well,
an early one.
Well, their ideology has now got to the point where they seem to be. Well, there's a line I've been saying that it's unionists are sowing division and separation. Who knew? The way they're attacking the devolved nations, the devolved governments, the way their English exceptionalism, they don't care anymore. It's like,
yeah, they never cared about the devolved governments. The English people think they own Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland. They don't care about what comes out of Holyrood or Belfast.
I'm not arguing with that, but it's raw. It's right out in the open at the moment. And, we're waiting until England decides it's time to declare its own independence. Look, they've put up the barriers against Europe. They put up the barriers against Ireland. It's only another step to put up the barrier against Scotland.
England doesn't need to declare independence against itself.
No, again, they've declared its independence from Scotland and
No,
Wales.
I'm sorry. That's exactly the point. They don't consider Scotland anything
We're
but
a
a
chattel.
region at best, like Yorkshire.
Well, you're right. I'm not going to disagree. I was just teasing you.
So that they have no need to be independent because they consider us dependent.
Hmm.
And, you know, the other question that struck me today while I was reading the Brexit stuff was, why does fishing get all the headlines when the
Because it's
farmers who are
emotive.
being well screwed get no headlines?
Fishing gets it all because it's emotive. You've got all these daft coastal communities who've been shafted for, 50 years by London and still think that London's going to do them a good turn at some point. I mean, come on, it's a tiny percentage of the GDP. London doesn't give a damn about fishermen at all.
What do they think is going to happen? Do they think that the Young's processing factories that were moved south with English government help, they got subsidized to move those jobs down to, I think it was Humberside somewhere. Do they think they're going to come back?
I mean, it's worse than that. The entire thing about fish, the entire thing about fishing, it feeds into this ridiculous British narrative of us being an island nation. An island nation, right enough, that's made up of about 1,000 islands, but only one of them counts and isn't actually an island. That is England.
I mean, I think the argument, of course, Jerry Hassan had a very good article today in the Sunday papers, and the article, the argument about, here we go. The argument about a border, as far as from an English perspective, a border is something to keep people out. But a border from, let's say you were a Hungarian or a Czechoslovakian or an East German up until 1989, was a border with something to cross and get into the EU. It depends on your perspective, but the White Cliffs of Dover, Vera Lynn, Spitfires, attacking Germany, it all adds up to a horrible, horrible part of English culture.
It's cannon fodder. It's absolute bullshit that they feed the dumbasses down there that vote for them time and time again. It's just the illiterate, ill-educated UK voters, and they want to keep you ill-educated. All this piss about them wanting kids to go back to school this morning is laughable. The only reason they want kids to go back to school, they didn't want the children to be educated. They want their parents out working again because the billionaires have lost money through lockdown.
There's a cracking cartoon I came across today, and if you give me a sec, I'll put it up.
Very good. You're getting good at this, Norrie. Oh, you're on the road.
I'm getting a bit better. The problem is you can't see the bubble. The bubble says, how will we know when it's safe to send politicians back to Parliament? Effectively, what it's insinuating is that they're going to use schools as an experiment.
Of course,
Norrie, I think that's an absolute certainty, mate, when you realise that middle class and working class children, it's perfectly acceptable for them to go back to school, but rich kids, they're not going back till September.
Well, the public schools are shut till September.
And particularly a place like Eton, mate, where they've got a ratio of one teacher for 8 pupils, and the campus is that large that kids get 10 minutes to move between classes, and yet they are not going back because they want to make sure that they can socially distance Eton.
Well, I mean, let's be fair. I mean, a lot of these kids won't actually be in the UK. So it'll be difficult for them to travel back to school.
Aye, probably.
I mean, I would imagine most of them have been sent to holiday homes to self-isolate.
That reminds me, I've got to say hi there to Isla, who was asking, apparently, she was looking at the recording of this and saying, can Grandpa speak to me? Hello.
Hi, Isla.
Hey, wait a minute. What do you think this is?
It's Sunday.
So I actually don't believe that it's being used as an experiment. I believe it's necessary to get workers back.
Of course it is.
Because, another background for you boys. Because it turns out billionaires have been losing billions of pounds.
Aye, the rich list came out this morning and they're all, well, we'll not say skint, but skinter than they would expect to be.
And 20% of them have been claiming furlough money, taxpayers' money, and they don't even pay tax.
If I can find it.
Not good. Wasn't a good look to come out.
It's not that one.
You're having fun with this new toy, eh?
I am. There you go. That's the Sunday Times. Super rich lose billions to virus.
Careful, don't fall off that chair.
It's quite
really
safe.
do. It'd make a fabulous thing to send into Harry Hill and try and get a couple of cents.
But I mean, I believe that that's why they're rushing to get kids back to school.
Of course it is.
To get workers back to work.
I mean, they lined them up on Sky this morning, one after another, all about the same narrative. It was, you're either a bad teacher. Of course we want the kids to be safe, but we really need them back at school because they need their education. Of course, you've already said it's not about the education. They need them back there so that people can go back to work.
Well, Michael Gove at his best this morning at 9:15 said on Sky the only way to guarantee that you won't catch a virus is to self-isolate and stay at home. And at 5 to 10 on the BBC, he said that he could guarantee that teachers wouldn't catch a virus by going back to school.
Right,
Talk about literally
minutes between the two quotes.
He's a shite house, we all know that, but he was particularly shite housery this morning.
Well, don't forget whose pocket he lives in. Rupert Murdoch all his life. He's never been anywhere else. And his wife.
Well,
actually, whilst you bring up Murdoch, any of you guys think it was notable that this morning's Boris article, he's not only lost Rupert, he's clearly lost the Tory graph because his article this morning was printed in the Daily Mail.
Where he belongs.
Aye, it's kind of where we expect a gutter journalist to end up as the Daily Mail.
I thought more like the Express.
Well, did you read it, Jimmy?
Cheeks. I read a bit of it and thought, Ken, what? I'm just not going to bother reading anymore. It's just nonsense.
Because the line I've noticed is this line that the Sun and the Mail, etc., are pushing about our teachers need to have more courage, be braver, like our frontline troops in the hospitals.
Aye. I noticed a wee tweet yesterday, Norrie, that kind of brought it home to me, and it said that 33 TfL bus drivers have died of coronavirus, and politicians trying to shame teachers into being as courageous as the front line now. It just should. None of these things should be going together. Any politician trying to shame a teacher and telling them they've no got courage to go back to work ought to be bloody harangued mercilessly for it.
An interesting tweet I noticed. If I can find it, about the breakdown of, I think it was a Bristol school, where from one infected kid. Yeah,
I saw that as well, aye.
With your lockdown rules and everything, it led to 20 people being in isolation. 200 people being in
200
isolation.
People, aye. And that was purely one person at a school that only had, I'm trying to think, Norrie, was it 15 pupils or something they only had at that particular time, because it was only kids of key workers that were in that day.
But they still took it home.
Well, the thing is, there were kids of key workers. Mm-hmm. So they have to lock down immediately. Aye. Anybody that's been in contact with them. So it just multiplies. I mean, it's a point we've made before about care home staff. If one care home staff member is found to be positive with a test, that means basically all the staff in the care home are in lockdown.
Mm-hmm. I did post. There's an excellent experiment. A little video. It's only 3 minutes long. An experiment which was done in a restaurant where they got some ultraviolet paint, and they painted one person's palm of their hand, and there was about a dozen of them in this restaurant, and it was a buffet restaurant, so they all sat down and had this meal, and then after the meal they switched on the black light, the ultraviolet light, to see how far this ultraviolet paint had gone. In other words, could have been virus, and every single person would have carried the virus out of that restaurant.
Having
Well,
said that, worst case scenario, because it was a buffet and everybody got up to serve themselves.
Aye, but
a buffet.
you're never going to Jimmy Chung's again. Come, I mean, mate, these places aren't opening again.
Aye, well, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. As you know, my daughter works in a restaurant, and there's still no thoughts about how that's going to operate. If it's going to operate.
Well, the thing about the schools that I thought was astonishing this morning for Gove is they're basically going to dump huge logistical problems onto schools and let them get on with it. You know, he's talking about class sizes of 15. They can't get class sizes of 30. So how on earth they think they're going to get class sizes of 15? I do not know. Are they going to just Are they going to chuck porta cabins in every school playground in the country or something to double their classrooms?
Well, then they need the staff.
Presuming that they've got the ability to think more than 2 days ahead.
Well, that's true.
Down south. This is what the Stay Alert is about. It's about moving the responsibility for the actions that are taken onto the public.
Exactly.
Teachers. And eventually it'll be healthcare workers.
Yeah. Again, they keep telling us that they're talking to the trade unions and they're having discussions with the trade unions. Well, every single trade unions came out and said that they shouldn't be going back until things are safe. And we want to see evidence of how you're going to make it safe. And the government are saying, no, go back and we'll see how it goes.
I mean, it's not that. It's sorry, no.
They don't need to see any evidence at all until the Scottish government produces evidence for Jackson Carlaw about why we're not doing exactly what England's doing.
Didn't talk about Jackson.
No, didn't go there. Look, it's not just trade unions. Apparently, by moving away from a clear message, stay at home, to stay alert, you can choose whether you're going to go and visit your cousin, your daughter, and stand in a park, 2 meters away, all that kind of stuff. Apparently, I read a very interesting short article in one of the papers today about this woman who's fallen out with her husband because he won't take risks. And she will. And she's been sneaking off to see her sister in a park and sitting on a park bench and not telling her husband because her husband's. So because it's the messaging isn't clear, it's causing friction inside families. Whereas you had a clear message before, no, you can't go out, you got to stay in.
Well.
I mean, I love the commentators.
Mere worrying in the messaging being a mess is the fact that their actions are a mess.
Well, can I ask you, Jimmy, in particular, because I'm sure you might know somebody that might have been on that protest yesterday to get the pubs open.
What are you trying to say, Jimmy?
No, I know absolutely no right-wing fuckwits, mate. So I'm sorry, I know nobody that was on the protest, and I believe there was about 15 of them in Edinburgh, including some daft trout that took her bairn in a pram.
I was thinking maybe some of the people that wouldn't have realised it was right wing would have just gone up there and thought it was a protest about opening the pubs.
Nah, everybody knew it was right wing, mate. That's why nobody went.
I've got a tweet thread here from Russ in Cheshire that I'd like to read out to you on this subject.
Ciao, John.
This is the week in Tory, is how he headlined it. So what have they done this week? Accidentally made it illegal to drive to Wales. Made it easier to see your other people's parents than your own. Issued new advice that was officially ignored by Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and the councils of Manchester, Liverpool, and Newcastle. Admitted there would be a border down the Irish Sea after years claiming there wouldn't. Said it's okay for a childminder to come into contact with your kids as long as you open a window. Do you remember that, Hancock?
Aye.
Published advice that you can car share as long as the driver doesn't look left. I missed that one. And £2 billion investment so he could use public transport again. Told us it's a civic duty to avoid using public transport. There's a list of about 27 or 28. I'll leave it.
Apparently you can have your nanny round, but you can't have your relatives round.
Aye, so if you want to employ your mother as a nanny, you're fine. I mean, I think quite a lot of the comedians made a point of that, just how middle class and unlock it was when you could play
cleaners.
Cleaners.
Nanny and cleaner, aye.
Cleaner can come round, aye. Cleaners and nannies, that's very middle class.
Aye. Either that or Dominic Cummings has been watching too much Pornhub again.
I've kind of run out, guys. You got anything?
I've got
No,
sorry, Jimmy, on you go.
No, I just wanted to, although we went off the subject very quickly, I just wanted to ask you if any of you had the same thought as me when we were watching Jackson Carlow being interviewed by Gordon Brewer this morning, looking at that big painting behind him on the wall, thinking, is that one of the ones you choried, Jackson?
I'd forgotten about that.
That was exactly my first thought.
Well, I didn't.
I'm glad you remembered to bring that up.
I didn't get that far, but I was thinking every item in that picture and background was deliberately placed there. So maybe he's maybe just teasing us.
I'm going to do that one day. I'm going to set up that wall of the office with all the weird shit I've got. Hats.
No, mate. If you do that, it'll just end up looking like the inside of the court.
Can you see my background? I've got Che Guevara there in the background. He's keeping an eye on things.
You just keep confusing me, Stuart, because you move from room to room.
It's all a real background.
I know where I am with Jimmy.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Well, I know where Jimmy is with Jimmy.
I'd like to mention. No, it's not. I don't want to talk a lot about it, but there's this very poor man called Richard Cook, who's managed to find the magic money tree again. This is a guy that managed to find £400,000 and donate it to the DUP, who spent it in England on the metro, not on the metro railway, but on the metro advertising in the metro newspaper. And they didn't have to declare where the money came from. Apparently, he's been caught up in another scam, some sort of defrauding somebody about oil in Texas.
I think it's maybe worth going into a bit more detail about that for the people listening. This was during the referendum.
The Brexit referendum.
Yeah, and the DUP were given this money, which they spent on a wraparound pro-Brexit advert for the Metro, as you said. But the Metro isn't published in Northern Ireland. Mm-hmm. So none of this money was spent on advertising in Northern Ireland. And they could do this they could keep the people that gave them the money secret, because in the past, during the Troubles, people who donated to political parties were assassinated.
Yeah.
So a law was introduced to allow them to remain anonymous. Obviously, a total misuse of the rules that were put in place to keep people safe. And it was basically swept under the carpet. But the rules were changed.
Mm-hmm.
But so you can't do it again. Shall I sum it up a wee bit better? Richard Cook, now he was ex-vice chairman of the Scottish Tories as well, this guy.
Yeah.
He's embroiled in a financial scandal that involves a bankrupted Ayrshire businessman, a convicted US fraudster, oil wells in Houston, the old firm, that's code for loyalists, and scores of angry investors.
And the guy, the Ayrshire guy, Cameron, is that his name?
Yeah, he might even be a Stuart Campbell.
who is it Campbell? I thought it was Cameron. But whatever, he's a bankrupt, but he's still a company director on 3 companies registered at Companies House, which is illegal.
That's strictly illegal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, so you do get some strange things. I mean, I thought the attempted attack on Keir Starmer this weekend's been hilarious, and making out that he's some kind of dodgy property magnate, and that when in reality he bought a disused field behind his ma's house years ago so she could use it as a donkey sanctuary. I mean,
well, I like the up to £1 billion. Do you know something? I've got a car that's worth up to £1 billion. All I need to do is find a mug that'll give me £1 billion for it.
Well, Norrie, I love this one. Tomorrow's Sun headline, if they keep going with this donkey thing and try to make it out, has Starmer got a weakness for a cute ass?
Oh, very, very good.
I mean, come on, they're having a go at a boy because he bought a field so his ma could keep a few donkeys in it. Our sitting chancellor at the moment has 12 homes worth, he says, roughly 10 million quid. But one of them's worth 7.5 alone. and another one sits in 12.5 acres in Yorkshire. So I think Keir Starmer's field is slightly less important than our sitting Chancellor lying about his property portfolio.
The best one I saw on this was somebody said, it's all very well, Keir Starmer's running a donkey sanctuary, but he didn't have to bring them into the shadow cabinet.
I thought it was going to be something about a Jeremy Corbyn and a donkey jacket there, but no, it slid a different way.
Oh, I'm surprised that hasn't come up.
Mm-hmm. It will by tea time,
did
mate.
Keir Starmer's donate a donkey jacket to Jeremy Corbyn? Where did the donkey jacket come from?
It will by tea time. How much was the donkey jacket, and did he pay for it by public money? I mean, apart from anything else, mate, when he bought that field, unless I'm very much mistaken, he was Director of Public Prosecutions on a couple of $100,000 a year, so he can buy whatever he wants for his ma when he's earning that kind of money. Or are people suggesting that he didn't earn that? He wasn't a shit-up lawyer.
The whole thing's predicated on selling the field to a house builder at the absolute top price possible for an area 100 miles down the road.
Aye, and let's be honest as well, the house builder would then have to build some kind of Bond villain lair or something like that to get that kind of money. It's a total nonsense, but it's indicative of the fact that they're now scraping around the barrel to get any stories about Keir Starmer, because clearly they're a bit riled that he had a good couple of Prime Minister's question times and making Boris look like a fud, same as they're desperate to get Boris's cheering section back in behind him to try and shout Starmer down, because at the moment it's one-way traffic at PMQs.
I know, but mind you, there's still a bunch of losers, the Labour Party. Did you see the latest polls? You could give that a wee mention. The projection is the Conservatives would actually add 14 MPs under the current polling. Labour would lose 12. The SNP would go up another 6. So that would leave 4 Tories and 1 Labour. Well, Ian Murray would manage it. Lib Dems would go down to 3. They could all get in a phone box again. Oh, I don't know.
By the way, that's something we never mentioned, guys. Did you see that? I didn't pay much attention, if I'm honest, but it did give me a wee giggle. The internal Liberal Democrat report on the election that said they'd had a bad campaign. You've got to wonder, why bother having the report to tell you that, eh?
I've got a wee clip to finish off with here, guys. This is kind of trying to be a bit fair to Americans, just that they're not all complete lunatics and losers. This is a guy in the House of Representatives, I think. If you give me a sec to get it up.
I've got to tell you, this is absolutely unbelievable. Just a few years ago, the stock market's at 25,000. Corporate profits are the highest they've been in decades. The rich keep getting richer. And our friends on the other side said, what do we do now? Let's do a tax cut where 83% of it goes to the top 1% of the wealthiest people. Fast forward a few months, global pandemic, 36 million people unemployed, 40% of families who have a worker that makes $40,000 a year and less lose their job last month. 4 million people didn't pay their rent, and the Republican Party says, we don't have any money to help you. Are you kidding me? Where do you guys live? Food lines around the blocks at our food banks in the United States of America. 1 in 5 kids are going hungry. Your party can't even get food to them. This isn't a wish list. If it's a wish list, it's for the working class people. How about the Teamsters that are going to get a pension when this bill passes?
Gentleman's time is expired.
Their pension gets cut in half.
Gentleman's time is expired.
This is ridiculous.
Gentlewoman
You're turning
from
your
New
backs
York
on the American
reserves.
people.
The gentleman
Let's
from
be
Oklahoma.
It's a good. He's a good orator.
Well, it's nice to see that there are actually Americans, because all we see is Trump and the crazies. There are real human beings in America.
A left-wing voice in America. I mean, it's not what we would consider left-wing, but it's extreme left-wing in America, isn't it?
Well, that's kind of the Labour Party in Westminster need to do a bit of that.
Aye, you're right.
Not at the moment. I don't know if you watched it. Angela Rayner, the deputy leader, was on this morning.
I didn't listen to her.
She's just they're not going to do anything at all to upset them. They're in favour of the kids going back to school as long as it's safe, as long as the union says it's all right. They're still going along with the government line.
Well, I was going to say on that sort of oration side of things, Neil Finley has occasionally come out with that emotional stuff, but unfortunately with Neil Finley, facts are a bit of a problem for him.
Aye, I mean, Neil Finley and his pals in the Tories are still desperately trying to make this whole cover-up thing stick that we were mentioning the other day. They're still going on about it. I don't know. It was actually your tweet, Norrie, that I noticed. It was quite entertaining when, was it to Jackson Carlo that you asked the question, or was it Neil Finn? I can't remember which one, but somebody was going on about Scotland having employed no contract tracers.
Aye.
And you just asked, well, who done the contact tracing after the Nike conference?
It was actually, in retrospect, it was a badly worded headline. Because the way the headline read was, we had no contact tracers. Well, obviously, we've got our full-time professional, always been there, contact tracers.
Yeah.
Well, Jackson Carlo was babbling on about that at one point this morning, I know, and you're like, hold it. How many times do you need told? We have hundreds of staff who have volunteered to come back, NHS-trained staff, and we've put a couple of hundred of them into care homes and a couple of hundred into hospitals. So these people are perfect for doing contact tracing because they're medically trained.
Well, the other point that somebody made to me was that the job applications are still open.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're open till Monday, I think. And the English lot have been having huge problems because apparently you do your training online.
Yeah, I've seen that some people are meant to be starting their job this week and they don't consider, they've done no training other than online training, so they don't consider themselves ready to start.
Aye.
The site, you're right, they couldn't start their training. It just didn't work.
Could be a good sign on the number of people who are trying to get on and train.
Yeah. Let's hope things get better for them there.
Well, again, we're still sitting here. It was almost 3,500 new cases yesterday in the UK. We're still getting thousands of new cases every day. And the politicians, particularly at national level, are trying to tell us that we're coming out of this and everything's okay. I think I seen somewhere the day that we went into lockdown in the UK, there were 82 deaths, I think somebody mentioned, and the day that Boris eased lockdown, there were something like 600 and odd deaths. So it does seem a bit odd that we go into lockdown at those numbers and try to come out of lockdown at very much higher numbers.
I think there's somebody in there advising them that basically they can't do anything about it. They were too late in lockdown, so it's already spread so far that lockdown isn't having the effect it had in New Zealand, etc.
But anyway, you must never forget.
Stuart's one's bang on. They're bringing back herd immunity. They're just never, ever, ever going to mention the words immunity and herd in the same sentence.
And don't forget who is Dominic Cummings' guru? Steve Bannon. And who's Steve Bannon's backers? The Koch brothers, the Elliots. And they believe, don't forget, they believe in chaos. They believe in causing chaos because out of chaos they can gain. They'll win.
Out of chaos comes profit as well, eh? Big pharma's making bloody fortunes out of this. Let's be honest. That remdesivir, they're making millions of dollars in America and it doesn't even bloody work.
Well, I have to say, lads, for the good of the union, I'm quite prepared to go back to work, which would involve me not actually moving from here.
What are you going to sell? A T-shirt?
Well, my boss,
your wife,
or rather, no, the guy that does the posters for me. I sell posters on eBay, folks. In case has set up the factory, for want of a better word, because it's huge. He's got a lot of space, so he's talking about going live again. So I will, you know, as I say, I'll go back for the good of all the billionaires that aren't making any money out of me.
Well, I've clearly got some thinking to do upon that, because I'll need to get a supply of PPE in before I consider going back to work.
Oh, well.
Do you remember when you were kids, they had those big sort of fishbowl plastic space helmets?
Aye.
Do you remember them? I'm just really surprised that we're not selling hundreds of thousands of them. Basically, with a tube in the back.
Yeah.
You know, and especially to taxi drivers, you know, because some taxi drivers have very strangely shaped heads.
Aye, that's very true.
And if you've got a beard, your beard would fit in it. You wouldn't need to worry about a seal on your mask.
Very
You would solve so many problems.
There you go.
Well, have you not seen these newfangled snorkeling masks, Norrie? They're fabulous things.
Aye.
Ricardo, aye, total thing, and the doofer comes right out your head like
At the
that.
back,
I was thinking, Ricardo got one of them off Tinternet, and I thought, you know what, that'd be entertaining. Apart from anything else, could scare the shite out the punters when they got in the back of the motor. Hello?
You could get one with kind of a one-way glass in it. So they see themselves when you turn around, but you can see out of it.
Well, I was thinking of a Darth Vader type thing to wear back in the motor, mate. I'm not sure.
Or what you really need is one of these plague doctor ones with a big beak. So when they get in, you know, the steam pack goggles and that, and when you get in, they just shit themselves.
Yeah, but the problem with that is, mate, if you're having to do a U-turn, that big beak could get caught in the steering wheel.
That is true. That is
nasty
true.
accident, mate.
You need to get one that sort of turns up like a rhino horn.
You're getting carried away here, Norrie.
We are. But you know, us creatives, you know what I mean? Anyway, guys, I think we'll call it a day at that, unless anybody's got a final... No? Nothing today? Okay, folks, that's us gonna break off now. Thank you, Stuart Lockhead, Jimmy Hutton. I'm Norrie Stewart.
Cheerio.
Thanks for watching, listening, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow, folks. Thanks for listening.